South African businesses operate in a maze of regulations with SARS, labour laws, intellectual property, the CIPC, and a tender system. So can AI help streamline any of that? Global AI tools trained on foreign data often hallucinate when asked about South Africa. But a South African-developed platform called NowNow is trying to fill that gap, and its founder, Lars Kamere, is with us in the studio. Hi, Lars. Welcome to BizNews.
Hi, Linda. Amazing to be with you.
So how did you come up with this idea?
Yeah, I think I have always had all sorts of ventures of my own, and I always looked to how AI could help me with those. And eventually I realized that in itself is an amazing business opportunity, right? That's the question everybody asks themselves. How can AI help with all sorts of business tasks? So we decided to develop a platform to try to help business owners utilize AI. Currently, it's mainly very small businesses, business owners who are generally by themselves, right? Who don't have the support of staff and resources. So, we've seen our most popular tools are, as you'd imagine, things like calendar management. So it's almost like you have a personal assistant, right? You can ask the AI, what do I have today? Where was my meeting with Linda or whoever? And of course, the tender finder, the receipts manager. If you're a restaurant owner, or whatever business you have that, has a flood of receipts, you just take a picture and AI analyzes it for you. So for tax season, you can just export, totals or whatever you need to export, right? So right now, it's really just the small business owner who wants to have the support of a whole staff, but obviously cannot pay for it. Well, they can use AI for that.
And how do you help them? Well, to navigate, I just said this earlier, labor laws, SARS rules.
Yeah, so what we have is a real business in a box platform. So on the one hand, we try to train the AI on South African data so that it can be relied on for real world, uses. So if you ask ChatGPT about something to do with the law or SARS, there's a danger of hallucination. It may give you very confidently a completely wrong answer. And as a business owner, you can't afford to be taking real world decisions based on, bad information. So we ground the AI, number one, on South African data. And the second is we integrate that AI with real world tools. So we connect it to your email, we connect it to receipts, calendar, all sorts of things, tenders, so that you can have AI actually doing real world tasks for you as an employee would.
Well, just list all the services that you offer to businesses.
Yeah, so in the chats, obviously it's trained on SARS, CIPC, labor laws, all sorts of South African data. And the tools, we have an email summary, so you connect the AI to your email, calendar, tender finder, invoice manager, receipts manager, compliance center, all sorts of things. And we also have a news page, which gives local news summaries, social media trend summaries. So the point is, a top CEO would have, armies of experts and staff and assistants. We just try to use AI to give all of that to a small business owner.
Oh, you mentioned tenders. So how can you get information about tenders?
Yeah, so basically, we connect our AI to the government portals so that instead of having to navigate the very difficult and not so good government websites, you can just type into the AI, please find me tenders related to roads in the Eastern Cape, and our AI will give you a list of those tenders.
Well, will your platform also help to combat the problem in South Africa, which is corruption and fraud and procurement with tenders?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the first thing is, I guess the biggest source of tender corruption is actually people not really knowing about which tenders are even being, what calls for tender they even are. So you have one person bidding for a tender, and then of course they can perform at any level. It's kind of like a no bid contract, right? So if we can get these tenders in front of more people, then obviously you have more people applying for these tenders, and hopefully, the government is at the end of the day, and I guess the taxpayer, getting a much better deal. And the second thing is, of course, the AI could, not ours, but AI in general could be used on the other side, right, for the government to monitor this whole procurement process. So I guess there's opportunity on both sides. Certainly with us, putting these tenders in front of far more people and companies. And of course, the possibility of AI being used on the government side to actually monitor all of this as well.
Well, then have you offered your services to the government?
We have, and it's going slowly. Hopefully, we'll make inroads. But as I say, it's a huge, huge opportunity, and it's been done in countries around the world very successfully. So hopefully, we can have some sort of system at the high level in Treasury monitoring the whole procurement process 24/7 using AI.
So it's interesting that you say it's going slow with the government. What is their answer if you contact them and say, listen, I can actually make this system very clear, not so opaque as it is at the moment?
Yeah, well, look, you would think, or I guess you would hope that, they would jump at this opportunity because this is an amazing chance to really use AI to clear up corruption. But most of the time you kind of end up being passed off to underlings, and nothing ends up going anywhere. But hopefully that will change, and we'll see. We're still engaging with all sorts of departments on that.
And where has it been used in other countries?
Yeah, one perfect example is in Brazil. So Brazil, their whole procurement system is almost, it's pretty similar to South Africa's. They spend roughly the same proportion of their GDP on, procurement. They release about 500 calls for tender a day across all sorts of departments, right? So obviously manually it would be impossible to monitor all of these contracts. So the Comptroller General of the Union in Brazil developed an AI system which monitors the entire procurement process. So first of all, it does the checks beforehand. So is this company a proper company? Who are the directors? Was it set up yesterday? And so on. And obviously manages whether they're on a blacklist or they're looks at their history of performance, but also actually live monitors the contracts. So is this person performing? Are they getting the job done? And so on. And so since 2023, there've been over 5 billion rand, the equivalent of 5 billion rand contracts cancelled in Brazil. And the system monitors over 100,000 contracts a year. So, that's an amazing use case. And obviously in South Africa, that's something that we need. And, it's not just the corruption aspect. that is, for South Africa, that is a huge opportunity, of course. But around the world, countries are using AI in all sorts of ways. In Sweden, where I happen to have been born, their company's registration office, they implemented an AI which sorts all of their incoming emails. So they used to have some 5 to 10 dedicated employees handling all of this. And they developed an AI that reads the emails, sorts them, either provides the answer to the person or, forwards it to the relevant department. And that has been so successful that department itself now has its own AI hub working on all sorts of other issues. And in Singapore, they have an initiative to train, their population in AI literacy and so on, especially now that, there's this whole cybersecurity threat from AI with deep fakes and, people falling for all sorts of scams. So there's really almost unlimited potential in terms of governments using AI to better their countries. And I think definitely South Africa needs to be doing that to the fullest.
So how long has this been going on, your app, and what is the adoption like?
Yeah, so we went live in November. And we've been completely bootstrapped, so no other money in. And yet we now have 1,200 signups, over 300 active users. And now we're in the process of raising a proper funding round to really kind of scale up the business and take it to the next level.
How much are you planning to raise?
Yeah, so, we'll see. Obviously, in the world of AI, people are raising billions, of course. We're looking to raise at least 20 million rand. And if we can do more, then we can do more because, of course, the upside and the potential is there to really scale across the whole continent.
Well, how secure is it in terms of cybersecurity?
Yeah, so we use what are really standard, the standard kind of encryption protocols, everything that you would expect, right? Right now, it's just a website that you log into and you access the platform there. Obviously, in future and on funding, we want to have it as a mobile app which will be much easier and also much more secure, of course. But so yeah, everything is hosted in country. We try to keep as little as in our database as possible. Obviously, you don't. If someone is constantly asking about their email, you don't want to now have their whole inbox sitting in a database somewhere waiting, to be hacked and exposed. So we really only keep as much as we need to keep to offer a good experience to the user.
And what features are you planning to add next?
Yeah, so we want to take all of our existing features further, right? So that, for example, instead of just being an email summary, it can reply to emails as well. We don't just want it to be a tender finder. We want you to be able to apply for the tenders as well, right? Or we don't just want you to, monitor your calendar. We also want it to interact with that. So it's going to be taking all of the existing tools and just making them much more agentic so that the platform can really behave as if you have a full-time team of regular employees.
So how big is the adoption of AI in South Africa at the moment?
Yeah, so South Africa is a unique case because we have a certain proportion of the population which is very much connected to global trends and kind of adopts these services almost immediately, and yet you have this huge swathe of the population which is kind of lagging seriously behind, right? So in terms of the higher end, the top companies, top individuals are utilizing AI likely to the fullest, or if not to the fullest, as much as anybody else in the world. But we have a huge proportion of the population which isn't using these tools, and these tools can be used in all sorts of ways to help the lives of regular individuals. And I mean, in government, the government is essentially nowhere in terms of the global trends of adopting AI. And the top countries have been adopting AI in all sorts of ways in government to really supercharge, their operations, their efficiency, and in all sorts of ways.
In which other government departments do you think AI could be used?
Yeah, so every state-owned enterprise, right? AI, the lovely thing is you can give every employee at a state-owned enterprise basically their own personal assistant, right, to supercharge whatever they're doing. So let's say, Eskom, where you have somebody who would, let's say, works at some power station. What would their kind of job look like? Well, they're referring a lot to manuals or to company databases in terms of how to deal with certain things. They have to communicate with other departments or other people. Well, with AI, you supercharge all of that. So with a simple, you connect AI to the whole Eskom system, and now this employee doesn't have to wait or doesn't have to spend time reading through manuals, doesn't have to spend time searching for answers within company databases, or, wondering what to do in particular situations or how to contact or waiting for responses from other employees or higher ups. You have AI, which basically manages the whole thing. So it supercharges the whole of government. And I mean, it can be used in literally thousands of ways. There are Eskom alone, and this is a shocking figure, they receive almost 1 billion cyber attacks every month. And that's, mainly denial of service attacks. So AI, again, that's a huge opportunity, because if you're having to manually respond to every single attack and do so in a way which is not constantly learning, then you're constantly going to be, fighting a flood. But if you have AI, which can just automate the whole process of deterring these attacks and, hitting them away, then, you can almost bring the attacks to zero, because attacks in similar ways no longer have an effect on your systems.
Could it be politically charged for the South African government because they think people might lose their job?
Yeah, that's the question globally, right? Is AI going to take everybody's jobs? And we don't know, but we suspect that obviously some jobs can be done by AI. So obviously, those jobs may be taken by AI. But on the other hand, two things. One, that AI will create all sorts of new industries that, like the whole internet revolution did, like the whole computer, personal computer revolution did. And that will of course have, I mean, we don't even know how many jobs. Maybe, it's likely that will create much more jobs than jobs are lost. But also, on the other hand, AI can already, and for a very long time has been able to automate a lot of jobs. And there are still people doing jobs that could technically be automated. So just because are these developments in AI doesn't necessarily mean that these jobs, will be lost. And it's quite possible. In fact, I think it's probable that throughout the world, there will be certain jobs that can be automated, but that aren't, simply because that AI may be used in other ways. There's always a kind of a cutting edge, and there are always, new challenges that these resources end up, being spent on. So it may be that there are jobs that can be automated, but actually we think it's better to spend those resources on some new issue. And, you end up with jobs that could be automated, remaining done by humans.
Well, Los Gamaliel, thank you so much.